Having trouble getting your child to read? Always on the device? Why not spark their curiosity with Coco Girl, the magazine designed by children for children. Coco Girl is educational, inspirational, and entertaining. Coco Girl for your daughters, and there's Coco Boy for your sons, designed with your 6 to 12-year-old in mind.
Without any further ado, then let us get to our presentation today. As I said, we have Miss Kerry Hinds, who is the director of the Department of Emergency Management here in Barbados. This is a role that Ms. Hinds assumed back in May of 2015. In this role, she's responsible for the daily operations of the DEM and the coordination of the National Emergency Management Program. Previously, she was the deputy director of this department from 2007 to 2015, and the program officer as well. She's represented rather the department and the government of Barbados at several disaster management conferences and meetings, as well as held positions on a number of disaster risk management working group committees, both locally and internationally. Ms. Hines has also worked as a business continuity consultant for the World Bank Group. Now, relative to her education, her bio suggests that Ms. Hines um, received her education at the George Washington University, Washington, D.C., graduating in 2005 with a Master of Science in Engineering Management, specializing in crisis and emergency management, and received the designation of Applied Scientist in Crisis Risk and Emergency Management from that same university in 2012. She's also a 2017 graduate of the Caribbean Leadership Development Program. Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that with this very short bio, we have someone that is very competent to address our topic today. So let us turn our attention, therefore, to Ms. Kerry Hinds, the Director of the Department of Emergency Management, as she helps us to unpack this topic today, developing a culture of preparedness amongst our people. Ms. Hinds?
Thank you so much for that introduction, Senator Dr. Holder, and thank you to the membership of the Small Business Association for inviting me to do this presentation this morning. I think the last time I would have done a presentation was back in 2015. But thanks very much for those words and for the introduction, really. Introducing the topic. Disaster risk management is a very pervasive topic, and as you can see, we have been affected here. This is over some months now, dealing with various hazards or emergencies that may affect us. So good morning to all. And as the topic suggests, we're looking at developing a culture of preparedness amongst our people. And the session objective today is really to provide the membership of the Small Business Association with pertinent and practical tips to assist in fostering that culture of preparedness. And I think this is so very important because we have a responsibility, all of us, to add value and our contribution to the whole national preparedness and national readiness efforts. This morning's outline, this morning's presentation really will come in 4 parts. Hazards affecting the Barbadian small business community. We'll take a look at those. Next, we look at the goals of small business disaster preparedness and business continuity. And then we look at the practical steps really to implement disaster preparedness here on our island. And the 4th area that we will be focusing on this morning really is taking a strategic look and outlook of what the Small Business Association and the members can do as you go forward. Over the last, I would say, 24 months or so, we have had a number of crises, emergencies, disasters to deal with. And it really has underscored the whole concept and the whole issue of living in a multi-hazard environment. And there are many situations that will come up of living in such an environment. We've seen the number of hazards that can affect our landscape, our infrastructure, our economy, our businesses, our households. It is definitely, and you can run the entire gambit of hazards, not just the natural hazards like hydrometeorological, like the floods and the hurricanes. We've been impacted by the volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, the pandemic. That is a particular hazard that has really affected us globally. In terms of everyday, maybe hazards that affect us, we also focus on the malfunctioning of computer hardware or systems failure. We have power outages that can affect our business. There are a number of other man-made hazards like oil spills, and we would have had one last year, a potential oil spill last year in the Gulf of Paria, and those will precipitate environmental emergencies. And we also have acts of violence or terrorism against persons and property. So these are just some of the hazards that can affect our communities, our businesses, as we move. Now, it is important to note that we may not be able to stop these various hazards from occurring, but we definitely can reduce our vulnerability to these hazards, and we can try to have coping mechanisms or strategies to deal with the various eventualities. It is important that we protect our business from these various hazards. And I would want to propose that the best solution is to have a plan which is robust and sound, and all your employees know what the plan dictates, what is encompassed in the plan, and you test it regularly. And I can even stretch that to not just a plan, not just a written document, but a program, of a safety program, your business continuity program. I think as business owners, you need to focus on that particular aspect because it will add value to your business. disaster planning really reduces the time. You don't want to be in the heat of the moment and have to think about what you need to do. It is a case where you want really to have done prior planning, and that really reduces time you take to recover. Now, the goals of any small business, any business, the disaster preparedness program is really to protect your employees, protect your assets, whether it is the facility, the various materials that you may have, important documentation. You also, another goal would be to lessen the impact of emergencies or disasters on your business. And when you're looking at the bottom dollar, you're trying really to lessen the financial impact. But another very important goal is you want to be in a position to reopen your business as quickly as possible, either reverting to a sense of business as usual. And that is so very important to the economic recovery of your community and by extension the country. Now, when we focus on disaster preparedness, the areas that we would want the important steps to implement, it is important that you organize and develop and administer, as I said, a preparedness program. And there must be buy-in from the top. So business owners, you must own this process and you must spearhead this process. Even if you pull persons along in terms of persons within the business, persons within the wider community to assist with your program management, it is important that you lead from the front. You also need to take into consideration any requirements or standards that you need to adhere to as businesses. So any laws, so for example, the Safety Health at Work Act, if there are any elements of that you may wish to refer to as you pull together your program, as you pull together your plan. Aspects of any provisions within the Emergency Management Act that can assist you and give you that authority to pull together your plan and your program. Any industry standards. I know there are certain industry standards, certain ISO standards that some businesses may have to ensure that they adhere to. And then you may have maybe unique specific standards or requirements for your particular business that you have to adhere to as it relates to disaster preparedness, health and safety, and those various aspects. It is very important that you are proactive in terms of the planning, gathering information about the hazards and how they can affect your business, assessing various risks. So for example, how does probably experiencing a power outage, how does that affect your business? What is it that you need to put in place to reduce the effect of the power outage? Is it a case where you need to go out there and purchase a generator to keep your business running as a result of that power outage? As a result of a storm or a hurricane, do you need to storm-proof or weather-proof your business, your facility? So these are some aspects that you really have to look at. You have to gather that information on the priority hazards because there will be many that can affect your business. and you have to assess your risk. How will this impact on your business? Does this have been affected by these various hazards? Do they affect probably the delay in production of your products or services? Maybe they will precipitate into the delay or in income. How do these hazards affect you? Do they affect in terms of any contractual obligations that you may have to your clients? These are some of the things that you have to think about. And that's why it is so important that you plan ahead, you look at how these various hazards may affect your business, your employees, and how you deliver on various obligations. When we look at over the last 24 months or so, we've had a particular situation where for a lot of us, we've had to look at how the pandemic has affected the way how we do business. Is it a case where we have to scale down activity at the facility that you are accustomed to working at? Have you put in place work from home, and what does that mean? What type of infrastructure you have to put in place to ensure that your business remains viable? So all of these things you really need to examine. In terms of implementation, developing that preparedness plan, what are the resources that you will require to help you implement that plan? And that is very important. What type of, are there equipment resources that you will require? What are the financial resources or material resources or even human resources that you would need to help you address your plan? The emergency response, this aspect of detailing and writing down this plan, and it is important that you have a written plan so everybody is on the same page there, everybody can comprehend what it is, what steps they need to take. In terms of emergency response, what are the procedures, the actual procedures that you would need to take if, for example, you had an active shooter at your business? Does all your employees, do you know what it is that you need to ensure that you are safe and your employees and your customers are safe? Crisis communication is also a very important aspect of any written plan, detailing what it is that you will be communicating as the owner of the business, how you communicate to your staff, to your customers, to the general public. Something has occurred, say for example, you have a water outage that has, or a power outage that has affected the way how you will operate on any given day. How do I get that message out to my customers, my potential customers, to the general public? Maybe you have reduced operations or you have to close on that particular day, or you have to operate remotely from another location or something like that. So these are important aspects of any plan that you will need to articulate. Think about business continuity in terms of how do you detail your recovery strategy from any emergency or disaster that has occurred. A lot of the times we want to avoid not coming back up as a business, not starting back your business. You want to avoid any negative business impacts. The quicker you are able to recover as a business, the better for you. Remember, you have competitors out there. So what are practical recovery strategies that you need to put in place? Now, these may be technology related recovery strategies, where you probably have to bring up, say for example, if you had a server failure or something like that, what would you need to do, and who would you need to communicate with, and how long are you anticipating it would take? Because then that also has impact on your business and your delivery of whatever product or service that you have. Also, as a part of the preparing your disaster management plan, business continuity plan, you have to look at employee assistance, how you support your employees. That is a very critical aspect of any plan. How you will work with your employees should be detailed. What assistance you can give them. Say, for example, is it a case where you have to provide alternate accommodations for them or assist them with that? Do you have to provide them with some sort of emergency supplies or any additional supplies to help them work from a different location? Those are things that you really have to think about, because your employees are an asset to your business, and you have to ensure that you protect your business at the bottom line. What are the things you need to put in place in terms of ensuring that viability of your business? Do you need to ensure that you have your insurance policies and you check to make sure that they're up to date? There are certain practical things that as a business owner you really have to look at. This aspect here that I have as it relates to incident management, usually you have to look at this particular aspect before, during, and after. How are you going to manage the incident that is occurring? Who are the persons that will be tasked with these particular roles? How do you interface, say, for example, with the persons, with, say, police officers if they have to respond, or the fire service if they have to respond? These are, how do I manage an incident effectively? These are important things that we all have to look at when you are detailing your crisis management, your disaster management plan. And of course, training. Any capacity building is an important aspect of any plan development process, any writing of a plan, any implementation of a program. You write the document, but at the same time, you have to go through the paces in terms of sensitizing persons to the document. And if there's any particular training that persons need to have, say, for example, if you have to ensure that some of your employees are trained in first aid, or training to utilize a fire extinguisher. So it is important that you define what parts of your plan, define a training program for your employees, and ensure that everyone knows their key role, how they're trained in their key roles of implementation of the plan, because this will contribute to the success of the plan. Now, testing and exercises. You can write a wonderful document, but you're not going to know if it is robust enough. You have to test it. You have to validate that your plan and your procedures. Now, this can be done in various ways. You can have what we call in the emergency management world tabletop exercise, where you sit and you go through with your staff. You have a couple of scenarios and you go through to get an idea of what persons, and this is based on the plan and the procedures that you have written, what you need to do to ensure that the plan is effective. How you exercise, you may decide, well, okay, at a particular staff meeting, we can probably sit down and go through the various scenarios. What if we had an active shooter? What if we had a power outage? What if, how are we going to deal with COVID-19 and working through our critical business processes? How are you going to deal with if there's a fire? So it is a way of, you can decide, you can do it via the tabletop, or you can do it where you, what I call, you have boots on the ground and you actually move and make, you carry out the various procedures and various actions to see if you're doing it right or whatever, or you can have a combination. We have, as we look at emergency preparedness at the national level, there are instances where we have, I think it was back in 2017 when we had the national trade winds exercise. Now, this was where we went out into the field and you could actually see us doing various procedures, implementing various procedures, utilize resources and that type of thing. And we went out there, we were on that is the highest form of an exercise where you expend certain resources to ensure that your plan is determine really the effectiveness of your plan. And it is very important that once you have conducted these exercises, try to validate your plans and procedures, that you really analyze what you have done and determine how effective the plan is. It may require you to go back to the drawing board again and look to see how best you can improve on the plan. Remember, program and plan improvement is a continuous iterative process where you identify any issues and you seek to find solutions to improve on it. It is very important that you do this not just only at that document level, really at the plan level, but as you look at your entire program, you are looking to identify ways to improve on what you have. You identify your weaknesses and you seek solutions on how you can improve on that. It is very important that when you're testing your plan and you are testing your program and you're evaluating your program, I think it is very important to have an independent evaluator as well. So you can invite, say, for example, if you were dealing with your plan, you can invite persons, say, from the fire service, from the Department of Emergency Management, from somewhere, so that you have a perspective of an independent perspective or unbiased perspective on what you can do to improve on your particular results. So as I said before, once you look at your program and your plan improvement, it is really about getting better. As you go on, getting better. You will find sometimes exercises will throw up different issues, and you have to see how best as a unit that you can improve on what is there. At the end of the day, it is about building capacity, improving on your resilience to the effects of any type of emergency or disaster, and really building on your business. So what next? And This is very critical and important to what you do as business owners. As a business owner, I think it is very important that you prepare and support your employees because, as I said before, your employees are an asset to your business. They are critical in you and you getting back on your feet as a business and continuing as a business. You need to develop practical steps to organize and prepare your business. I've gone through the steps of preparedness planning, and you can take those steps and you can build it out. There's so many resources out there on the internet, in the public domain that you can utilize. But it is important that you make the step. If you don't have a plan at this point in time, when we finish this call today, when we finish this session today, I encourage you to go back and start writing, start pulling together, have a discussion at your business, and start to pull together something. It is important that we make a start. You do not want to be a business that cannot reopen because you haven't put certain things in place. How can the Small Business Association assist? I think it is important the Small Business Association to organize your network to support your membership. Is it a case where you can provide information on an information portal to your members? A specific page that they can go to if they need assistance, or do you have a help desk that they can go to where you can provide assistance in putting together the plan? Those are practical ways that you can really assist. Are there reference documents that persons can come to your website, or can you mail out information to your various members of the network? It is also important that you determine your members' needs and capacities. And maybe I don't know if you would have done this prior, but get a gauge of how many members have plans in place. Can you support them with templates for plans? These are some practical areas that you can really assess, because you need to understand what are the needs and what are the capacities of the various members. That is so very important. So you need to have a baseline of where you're starting from. And then, of course, put in place targets in terms of where you would want to be as a small business association, where you would want your members to be, say, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. You can also be a part of any standards setting that you feel that need to be done as it relates to disaster preparedness, business continuity. Those are some areas that you can really look at. It really is about, as I said before, building capacity, fostering resilience, leveraging networks and partnerships. Is it a case where the Small Business Association can partner with other networks, not only nationally but regionally, to assist its members in building that capacity? There's so much information there that you can garner, you can harness. I mean, you as the Small Business Association, but also you as members, as businesses, fostering resilience. It is so very important that we improve on our ability to manage, to cope with emergencies or disasters that may come our way. is so very important. Again, the bottom dollar, the goal, one of the major goals on a previous survey that I would have alluded to, you want to be in a position to reopen your business as quickly as possible. And it is important that we look at these next steps in terms of building capacity. What is it that what capacity that you need to build within your business? Do you need to train your employees? Do you need to improve on the infrastructure that you have available to you? What is it that you need to do as a business owner? And we know that we are operating amidst this multi-hazard environment. All these various things that can happen. What is it that you need to think about? What are the steps or the actions that you need to take? What do you need to put in place to ensure that you survive as a business owner? So as you move forward as a system, I think you may wish to focus on a number of aspects. What things are critical to small businesses in Barbados today? What do you need to focus on? Have the various hazards that have affected us in recent times? We would have had the experience of Hurricane Elsa just a couple of weeks ago, the ongoing COVID-19. So have these provided an opportunity to make business emergency preparedness programming more effective? What are the priority areas that you as a small business and also as the association, what are the priority areas for capacity building and how do you accomplish such? These are issues that you have to reflect on individually, but also collectively. It is important that you assist each other in building that capacity, whatever that may be. So as you look inwardly as a business, as an association, what are the measures that you now need to take? What new considerations have evolved or you need to leverage to improve the current system? Because at the end of the day, you want to say to the public, to your customers, to your vendors, come in. I am open. We are open for business. And that is so very important. It will, as I said, it contributes to the economy. So you have an important contribution to make. Your business is very, very important to not only the employee putting food on the table, the owner of the business putting food on the table, but also to the country in terms of that economic activity and that income that is required. So part of, yes, we could go through the gamut of what you need to put into a plan, but it is important that you start. If you're not starting, you need to start. I would want to encourage you to develop your plans and your programs as it relates to emergency preparedness. There's always resources out there, that can, we have resources that can assist you, but it is important that you make a start. So thank you so very much for listening to me this morning. And of course, I'm open to any questions, queries that you may have.
Thank you too, Ms. Hinds, for a very comprehensive presentation. I'm sure, colleagues, you would agree with me that we set about to look at that culture of preparedness, and our presentation actually gave us very practical approaches that would help us to create the kind of responses to improve the attitudes and the behaviors and so on that we should adopt in our firms. We heard, for example, how we can go about building capacity in the organization, the importance of resilience at this point in time, because at the end of the day, we must have systems that are resilient and would allow us to rebound. We also heard uh, some ideas that the association itself can embrace to help us provide information to the membership, to help us to provide guidance and so on, via our website and other tools that will help our members. So we've been able, I believe, to look at this information and translate this now into practical steps that would help us to be prepared in the event of a disaster. One area that is very, very, very important to me, at least, is insurance. And we encourage small businesses, sole proprietors, business owners to please make sure that in your resilience building, in your business continuity planning, that insurance is factored in, insurance is considered to help with mitigation of risk in the event of a disaster. So it is your opportunity now, it is your time to be involved, to share, to comment. I'm going to ask you, please, as we normally do, to go to the chat section on this Zoom platform. Please jot your comments there, your questions, that we can make sure that our presenter is given the opportunity to respond and to share. So please go to the chat section at this time for your comments and queries. Ms. Hines, I'm going to start the ball rolling, and to look at business continuity. The fact is that we very seldomly talk about business continuity, especially at the level of the small or even micro firm. I'm not, clear even how many business owners understand and appreciate the importance of having a business continuity plan in their operations. So I want you to share with us a bit more on the significance of the business continuity plan and how maybe our small firms can, with the limited resources, let's appreciate that, very limited resources, how they can maybe approach the adoption, development, if you will, of business continuity plan, especially at this time.
Okay, thanks very much for the question, Dr. Woodham. The business continuity is very important to the sustainability and viability of any business. And it goes beyond just emergency preparedness, where you are reacting to a particular hazard at any point in time. It really speaks to what are the recovery strategies that you as a business owner need to put in place. Now, what that will mean to you, though, is that you have to critically analyze look at your critical business processes and how a particular hazard may affect those, and what then you need to put in place as a business to ensure that these are not affected or you reduce the impact on the business. So, for example, if you have an IT firm, your focusing in on more IT, you're so dependent on IT related stuff to get your bottom, to ensure that you deliver on your particular service. Then you have to look at if there is a power outage or if there is a cyber attack, how does that affect you as a business? What are the important strategies then you need to put in place? Do you need to improve on your security levels as it relates to your computer hardware and software, your application? Who in the business will have access to this? Do you have to ensure that you have adequate firewalls? Do you need to ensure that you have whatever information that you need backed up somewhere just in case the information on your current servers are compromised? So you because at the end of the day, you want to be in a position as a business owner to get back up and running as quickly as possible. So you really have to unpack how these various hazards affect you. What are your critical processes? Because you will try to ensure that as a business, okay, critical to my process are my employees. I have a particular employee with a particular skill that if anything happens to that employee, my business is in jeopardy. So is it a case, for example, do you cross-train? You may not want just one employee to have all that information. You may decide you need to cross-train, or you may decide that you need to have a manual so that if somebody else picks up that manual, another employee picks up that manual, then they are in a position to do the same conduct, business as normal, do the same actions that the particular employee had to conduct in order to carry out your particular business function? Or do you need to have a list of vendors or persons with those skills that you may have to employ or you may have to contract until that employee that has all of that information can come back on the street? So there are practical things that you really need to look at. What is it that if I don't put certain things in place, it may probably mean end of my business, at least for a while. And that means if you go down as a business, remember you have competitors and you can lose market share. Who other things that you have to look at? Who are my critical suppliers? I make garments with a special cotton. And if something happens to that supplier, then what is it? Do I need to diversify my suppliers? Do I need to diversify my suppliers? Do I need to have additional stores of this particular item? So these are some things that you really need to think about. And this will help with the continuity of your business. So you need to think about these things before something occurs, but what are the strategies, recovery strategies that you need to put in place as a small business? And it is important that you go through the whole gambit of the type of analysis that you need. And as I said, as a small business association, you may want to have templates for your available or reference documents available for your members so that they know because I'm a member of the Small Business Association, I can go and access how to do these particular things. It may be a case where you can pool the resources of your members or facilitate it to facilitate on behalf of your membership.
I like that last point, Ms. Hinds, and admit that some sort of disaster management toolkit, if you will, may be something that can be developed. And I'm sure that the DEM will help us with that project. But that's what I'm hearing. And I look at the comment section and I'm seeing that Jean Chase Seeley is also agreeing, because she suggests that the association can consider setting up a committee on disaster management, and having that toolkit, which I'm recommending or even considering now, can be a practical outcome of that to provide to firms. But as you spoke there, even about cybersecurity, we talk about natural disasters and so, but even cybersecurity is an emergency issue. And we saw what 2 recent hacks in the great US of A did in crippling their economies. So as I look at this question here, this comment here from Jean is saying that there are so many potential hazards, and even the big business has a challenge in surviving these onslaughts. So what is the real likelihood of a small business being able to be prepared for all of these hazards on their own, when big businesses are often caught off guard themselves?
I think it is important for us to don't get discouraged. It may seem like a mammoth task, but hence the reason why I said you can band together as the association and provide tools or assistance for your members. Sometimes emergency prepared, when you look at various strategies that you have to put in place, it may seem virtually impossible, but as you start, you can chip away at things on a steady basis. The time you remember you need as a business, I think, invest in your business and safeguard your business. And this can be to my mind, one of the critical ways of investing in your business. Mm-hmm. What is the difference between you and, say, another like business if you don't have at least a strategy in mind of how prepared you are? And I go back to the whole issue of the power outage, the power outages that we have. And even in Hurricane Elsa, some of our businesses probably were without power for a while. I know a lot of our households were. And what did that mean for them? Did you lose stock? So for some people, some persons had in place, say, had a generator. And where you may say, well, the generator is X amount of thousands of dollars. Do you as a business say, well, okay, I will put out that money just in case? Because, some people will say, well, man, we only got power outage probably once a year, whatever. When they go and put out that money, that X amount of thousands of dollars on that's an expense to my business. But at the same time, look how it did take the power company a while to come back up. And there were some persons who had generators. So they really did not have that much downtime. Mm-hmm. So just look to see what is your return on investment, if it makes sense. And trust me, as a business, it makes sense because the the 7 days that you were out of power and your competitor had his or her generator, and they were working, and you saw the persons lining up going to them, you could literally count off how much money probably was that you were losing. And when you count that up, the couple of thousands or a couple of $100 for the generator, trust me, seems very minuscule at that point in time. Then now people say to you, they may think it as well, that business is not ready yet. So now they say, well, I think I better move my business over, and I prefer to patronize this business that you know for sure may have something to do. They may be up and running when I really need them the most. So those are the things you have to weigh as business owners.
No, I quite agree with you. I mean, at the end of the day, it can look a bit daunting at times, even based on the comment. But we all know that what we have to do is encourage our small businesses to invest. I think that is maybe the next cultural shift that is required. We have to invest in the business. And what I mean is not investing in financial instruments necessarily, but investing in the business to help it to grow. I once heard someone refer to it as not only working in the business, but working on the business as well. That you must have an approach where you are constantly looking to, reinvest infrastructurally, in your equipment and the like, so that you can position your firm, on a growth path. And I think the simple example being used of the generator bears the point. How many of our small caterers, for example, of a small restaurants, those in the food business, distributors and the like, understood and appreciated the importance of having, for example, a generator. As simple as that may seem, because in this environment, the electricity can be challenged. And we saw that for 5 days, 6 days, many locations were out of electricity. And we heard the comments coming into the association about small caterers, for example, may use that grouping, who had to dump food, who had to throw away lots of poultry and meats and so on, because obviously they couldn't cook all of it. They tried to give away some of it, but they still ended up losing because of not having something as simple as a generator. So I want to really echo that point, that we have to encourage business owners while they're working in the business, that they must also have a culture of working on the business, so that you're constantly, investing and positioning your firm for growth and sustainability. Now, I want you to address a comment here from Celeste Carter. She's saying she wants for you to really repeat the advice on cross training and its importance in an emergency on cross training. You mentioned it briefly. If you can maybe expound on the significance of cross training, especially in an emergency situation.
Okay, thanks again for the question. It is important that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. It is critical that as a business, you give yourself that space and that opportunity to maneuver. Cross training is very important. Think about it. You have, say, 10 employees, and there is one particular employee that has a particular skill. And that person, say for say for example, say you're a funeral business and you have one embalmer, and unfortunately something happened to that particular person for whatever reason. They were impacted, they can't come, so you as a business, you may want to, there may be persons that are interested in that particular field that you have within your business that you can train to do certain aspects. Because the longer that person stays away, that means the possibility that you're losing income as a result of not being able to do that particular, carry out that particular function of embalming the body. So there may be opportunities for cross training there. Just like there may be opportunities in emergency response, you have a number of persons who may know first aid, who may know how to utilize a fire extinguisher, rather than you saying, okay, let me wait until the fire service gets here. The fire service offers certain classes. Obviously, if it's a small fire, they offer training for your employees, and I would encourage any and all businesses to possibly try as much as possible to have training in some of those basic survival or life skills. So the importance of making sure that it is not just one person that has all the knowledge, and then if that person is there, you're lost. So that is why you try to, and it is also building capacity. You may have employees that are very interested, don't mind having training, don't mind having that certificate saying, well, I'm certified I'm certified in first aid. It is about personal development for the employees, but also development as a business, because you have a number of persons now within your employee on your payroll that may assist you, or that can assist you if something occurs, rather than being very dependent on one person.
Okay.
You don't want that weak link. Remember, that is typically then one of your critical or weakest links in any plan.
Yes, agreed. It becomes a weakness in the structure of the organization. Yes. If you have, only one individual who has the competency to do something else, something. If no one else is there to do it, then it can easily cripple the operations of the firm. So it becomes a weakness. This is why I made a point earlier about working on the business. Is a continuous effort of the business owner, of the manager, to be mitigating risk, because it is a risk. It is a risk factor. Yes. Really, is a risk for the operation. It can cripple the ability of the company, of the firm, to deliver the goods and services. So it becomes a risk. And therefore it ought to be addressed. But let me take the final two comments. I have one here from Shara Brathwaite from The Nation, actually. And she's asking if you can speak, I believe it's to you, if you can speak to the impact of Hurricane Elsa, and especially on small firms, those that may have experienced loss. Did you get any reports coming into the DEM of small firms or businesses, period, who would have suffered any loss, especially when we had the power outage across the island in various districts and so on? Did you receive any reports at the DEM?
Thanks for the question. Our reports were primarily homeowners, individual homeowners. No, I don't know to what extent those persons may have had small businesses operating from their homes. I don't know that. I would not be in position. The information doesn't tell me that specifically. I don't know if your association collects that information, Dr. Walker, in terms of the impact of Hurricane Elsa on small businesses, and that may be an area that we may want to do some further investigation on. I think it may be I think it may be a very good case study. But I don't know, I don't have any information on specific impacts on small businesses.
All right. We would definitely include it in the next quarter assessment. Each quarter we do polling on issues affecting the sector. The last quarter, I'll admit, we've been looking at the fuel prices. Well, let's take Patricia Brathwaite's comment here. She's saying that following Hurricane Elsa, while her electricity and water returned in a few hours, the internet was down for about 11 days. Her internet was down for 11 days. Now you can appreciate the significance of technology for a small business. Okay. And she obviously had a looming deadline to meet for a client. Is there a way to cover this type of loss? How do you cover this type of loss going forward?
I think it is. We have to re-emphasize the importance of having these various utilities, because these are critical. And remember, I spoke about what are the critical equipment or the critical processes as it relates to our various businesses and the viability of our businesses. And we see how critical it is to have certain infrastructure in place. Whereas with a power outage, you can probably have a generator running. The internet, our reliance as a country on, and I think as a globe, on IT and the internet to do business, that cannot be underscored enough. And there is a need for that redundancy and the robustness of our various systems. And I think that is an issue that the various service providers, they will need to look at. There's always, I always say as an emergency manager, you need to have redundancy and you need to have contingencies in place. And you need to see how that affects the business and what other strategies that you may have to put in place to ensure that your vulnerability to something like that is reduced. It does impact the business, and I'm sure that it impacted not only the person's business, but there are other businesses that would have been impacted as a result. I know with respect to, it may be that you may have to have a discussion, I don't know, with peer trading or one of the service providers to see if there is any way that you can improve on the service that they are providing to you. How can we build our systems to reduce the service failures? It may be a case where, as I said, it may be it may be unavoidable for a particular point in time or for extended hours. It may be unavoidable, but it may be reduced in terms of the time taken to treat to these various issues. But I think it may have to be a discussion at a higher level.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with that one.
Yes.
I'm agreeing with that last point, that actually this may need to be discussed at the level of government, because telecoms, in my view, represent the newest kid on the block
Mhm.
relative to these essential services. So, for example, we talked about electricity, and over time, we've been able to put a contingency in place. You invest in a generator. We talk about water, and somewhat of a contingency, because you try to encourage homeowners, business owners, and so on, where possible, to catch enough water that they can have a reserve. But we've not yet been able to look at the contingency relative to telecoms. There's no additional device that you can purchase, because if the telecoms go down, the internet goes down. That's it. So from a contingency perspective, we've not yet been able to address this particular essential services and essential service, and that is what it is now. It is an essential service because we have position our economies, position how we do business, how we live, really, to be reliant on technology. um, you need the internet. Right now, because of COVID, again, we've moved all of our programs online. Our meetings that we're having here now have adopted this platform. We're using the webinar type um, platform instead of having our monthly sessions at the secretariat in our conference room. So we're relying more on technology, but we have not yet addressed how we're going to put a contingency in place if it happens to go down. So this member's comment is in my view very profound at this time, because it shows us that this newest kid on the block, meaning telecoms, still we've not yet been able to address the contingencies around this. And this is definitely something that government needs to consider, and the DEM is a good department to maybe encourage the conversation to be had. But the more and more we move to that digital environment, the use of technology, we have to be able to address what happens when it is disrupted.
Yes, I think your comments, I agree with your comments. And remember earlier in my presentation as well, I spoke to the whole question of the cyber attacks. And as we rely more on technology, those are some of the hazards that we have to ensure that we plan for. This whole question of cybersecurity becomes very important. You don't want a case where the business's information or clients, vendors' information, that information is compromised in any way, and it is out there for the internet public.
All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a rather informative, entertaining at times, but very profound conversation this morning with the director of the Department of Emergency Management, Miss Kerry Hinds, as we looked at the topic of developing a culture of preparedness amongst our people, primarily because, as we indicated at the beginning, we are in the current hurricane season. As you know, our part of the globe, we are susceptible to natural disasters, and therefore it is important for us to understand how to be prepared and what we need to do. We looked at a number of issues today. We underscored the importance of capacity building, business continuity, building resilience in our operations, and even as an association, we looked at some of the solutions that we can also put in place to assist our members as we go forward. So we've had a very educational session, a very informative session today. And if you join late or you missed any aspect of it, please, don't be discouraged. I want to suggest that you can follow this session, as is the case for the many previous month's webinars, on our website. You can visit our website, www.sba.bb, and you can watch the presentation again. You can review the PowerPoint provided by Ms. Hinds in the event that you missed any component of it. And it's also on our Facebook page. You can go to our Facebook page and you can watch the session again. Please, I'm going to ask our members, our colleagues, to go into the chat now. We have posted there for you a link, a webinar feedback, and we're asking you to spend just about 5 minutes giving us your comments, giving us your feedback. That will help as we continue to improve. We want to thank Ms. Hinds sincerely from the DEM for sharing her wealth of knowledge and experience with us as we seek as a society, really, as a community of small businesses, to improve our overall preparedness to address natural disasters and emergencies. So before we close, Ms. Hinds, you wanted to say something before we close out our session?
Well, just thank you so very much to yourself, the Small Business Association, and the membership, really, for having me today to discuss this very important and critical topic. I wish you well as members, as small businesses. I know it is very crucial to you to ensure that you continue. And I know that small businesses, when you look at the contribution it makes to our economy, I think that is very important, that you stay viable. And I mean contribution not only in terms of dollars and cents, but in terms of employment to families. It is very important, I think, that you have to protect that investment. And if it is, and it would encourage you as small businesses, come band together and make sure that you have your various plans in place. It can only augur well for you as you go, as you proceed, as you advance as a business, and it will help you, I think, to grow your business as well in terms of the reliability of your business. And I think it is very important to your clients as well as your vendors. But thank you so very much for inviting me here this morning into this afternoon, really, to share with you.
Yeah, thank you too. We really appreciated the time spent with us in this very critical subject area, and the information shared. Colleagues, please give us your feedback. Just click on the link there in the chat section, webinar feedback, and answer very few questions, short questions, help us to improve our product offering as we go forward. And before we close out, we want to share again with you the information from some of our members, the products and services being offered to you. Remember, we're encouraging you to support our small businesses. As we know, this sector plays a significant contribution, yes, to the economy, as well as we heard Ms. Hinds remind us, to employment generation, helping to enfranchise persons, the vulnerable, and others across our society. So please support our small businesses. So let me, at this time, introduce our small firms and the products and services that they have on offer. We want to thank you again for spending this segment of your day with us. We look forward to seeing you in the month of August as we bring another critical topic in this, our educational series. And again, please remember, support our small businesses. Thank you for being a part of our session today. God bless you. Bye-bye for now.
Having trouble getting your child to read? Always on the device? Why not spark their curiosity with Coco Girl, the magazine designed by children for children. Coco Girl is educational, inspirational, and entertaining. Coco Girl for your daughters, and there's Coco Boy for your sons, designed with your 6 to 12-year-old in mind.